Joanna Baillie's A Mother to Her Waking Infant is the only poem this week written by a woman, and takes a different attitude towards the theme of childhood, focusing on maternity. As with many of this week's poems, it's formally simple. It consists of 8 stanzas of rhyming couplets, AA, BB, CC, all except for stanza 5, which adds an additional couplet, so is 2 lines longer. The speaker is, as the title suggests, addressing her infant, and in the first stanza she asks, "What do I see that I should sing of thee? Why would I write a poem about this poor helpless thing?" And she goes on to point out that the infant can't say anything, doesn't really know anything, and still can't do an awful lot. And yet I love thee well, the second stanza concludes. So, despite a lack of any kind of objective worthiness, the child inspires a subjective love in the mother, which is obviously not surprising on the level of subject matter, speaking of a mother's unconditional love for their child, but maybe more surprising in the fact that Baillie has chosen to write a poem about it. Baillie, like Barbauld in The Mouse's Petition, draws from the sentimental tradition and anticipates some of the other romantic writers by making the feelings central to the poem, without any extrinsic merit being present to justify the poetic act. So in that respect, Baillie anticipates Wordsworth's objection to the notion that poetry must be about lofty subject matter, keeping in mind that this poem is written in 1790 and Wordsworth's preface is not written until 1800. Baillie also points out that the baby is not even adept in sensibility. But when thy friends are in distress, thou'lt laugh and chuckle ne'er the less, nor with kind sympathy be smitten. In other words, the supposedly natural feeling of human sympathy is not yet present in the baby. So even the kind of basic definition of humanity that the cult of sensibility would uphold is not even applicable here yet. So the child does not tie into this discourse of a supposedly natural feeling of human sensibility, which also kind of challenges Wordsworth's hyperbolic praise of the child in the Immortality Ode as a philosopher and a seer. Here we can see that Baillie does not idealize or romanticize the baby. The baby just is what it is. It's not something to be turned into an emblem for some kind of philosophical argument. And yet, of course, the mother still loves the baby and desires to sing to it and to sing about it. The fifth stanza, the one with the extra couplet, signals a shift from simply describing the child to reflecting on the effect that the child has on others, including the speaker. And the final 2 stanzas, the speaker concludes that she has the future to look forward to. Perhaps when time shall add a few short years to thee, thou'lt love me too. So she sees the potential for sympathy and sensibility and love in the child. But in the present, the baby does not yet return the love it is given. And the poem then ends with the speaker essentially giving up on the poem. Go to thy little senseless play, thou dost not heed my lay. She can't communicate her love in human language to the child because the child is not paying attention and wouldn't understand anyway. So, while some of the poems by female poets that we'll read in this course, such as Barbauld Mouse's Petition, seem primarily interested in making feminine subject matter fit into a masculine language and rhetoric and style, Bailey's poem is one that we might see as being, we might be more inclined to call stereotypically feminine. It's hard to imagine a man writing this poem. Both the subject matter of motherhood and the style, which is self-effacing, especially at the end when the speaker simply gives up on the poem, are more stereotypically feminine in their both in terms of the subject matter and in the sense of being outside of the masculine poetic tradition. But, like Barbauld, Bailey is raising the question of what a poem can or should be. She is, as I've suggested, also aligned with Wordsworth against the assumptions made by 18th century poetry. But arguably she goes further than him in challenging conventions of what poetry can be about, in that Wordsworth retains a certain masculine focus, whereas Bailey opens up fields of subject matter that Wordsworth still would not have considered himself.